You see them everywhere, right? But flowers are so much more than just a pretty thing to look at. Inside every single one, there's this hidden world, just buzzing with activity. This is a story of creation, of strategy, and ultimately of survival. Today, we're going to pull back the petals and reveal a flower's most important secret mission. I mean, have you ever really stopped to think about it? Beyond just adding a splash of color to your garden, what is a flower's grand purpose? Believe me, it's not just sitting there looking pretty. It is working. It's building something. And that's it, right there, reproduction. The best way to think about a flower is as a highly sophisticated factory. And this factory has one single-minded mission: to build the next generation. To do that, it's running two different production lines at the same time, each one creating one half of the blueprint. So let's start with the first one. Okay, first up, we're going to look at the male production line. This side of the factory is all about one thing: foraging the pollen grain. You know, that tiny, powerful little package that's designed to travel. Now, the official name for this whole process is a mouthful: microsporogenesis. But let's break that down. It's actually pretty simple. Micro means small. Sporo relates to spores. And genesis just means creation. So it's literally the creation of small spores. These are the things that will become our pollen grains. And all of this action, it's happening inside a part of the flower called the anther. The anther itself is just brilliantly designed for mass production. Usually it has two main lobes, and then each of those lobes is divided again, giving us a grand total of 4 chambers, or pollen sacs. You can think of these as 4 parallel assembly rooms, all just churning out millions and millions of pollen grains. So how does it actually work? Well, inside each of those chambers, a special cell called the microspore mother cell gets the signal to start. It then goes through meiosis, which is a really special type of cell division. Its whole job is to cut the genetic information in half. This creates what we call haploid cells, and the result is a little cluster of 4 brand new cells, each one carrying exactly half the DNA needed for the next generation. And here's the result. It's a perfect strategy of pure efficiency. From just one single mother cell, this factory produces 4 viable microspores. Every single time. There's no waste. Pretty soon, these 4 will mature and go their separate ways. So, after a little maturing, we get our final product, the pollen grain. Now, this isn't just some simple cell. It's a complex, 2-celled vehicle protected by 2 tough layers. On the inside, you've got a vegetative cell. Its job is to build the runway, basically, and a generative cell, which is carrying the precious cargo, the male reproductive cells. But it's that outer layer, the X sign, that is just mind-blowing. It's made of a substance called sporopollenin. This stuff is one of the toughest, most resistant biological materials on the entire planet. It can handle extreme heat, powerful acids. It basically doesn't decay. This gives the pollen grain a nearly indestructible suit of armor for what's going to be a pretty dangerous journey. Okay, so that's the male side of the factory. But at the exact same time, the female production line has been hard at work too, but with a completely different strategy in mind. And this process is called, you guessed it, megasporogenesis. See the pattern? Mega means large. So this is the creation of the large spore. And this whole operation happens deep inside the most secure part of the flower, a place called the ovule. Think of the ovule as a high-security nursery. It's got protective outer layers, kind of like walls, called integuments. It has a rich, nourishing tissue called the nucellus that acts as a food supply. And it has one tiny little opening, the micropyle, which is basically the future front door. Now, the process kicks off almost identically to the male side. A single megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis, that same special division that cuts the genetics in half. And just like before, it produces 4 haploid cells. Everything looks the same so far, right? Well, this is where the story takes a really dramatic turn. Because instead of keeping all 4, the plant makes a choice, a ruthless one actually. 3 of those 4 megaspores just degenerate. They disappear. All of the energy, all of the nutrients get funneled into one single chosen survivor. This isn't about numbers. It's a strategy of quality over quantity. Why? Because this cell doesn't have to travel anywhere. It just has to be perfect. So this lone survivor now starts to develop. Its nucleus divides 3 times. It's kind of like hitting copy and paste on its genetic instruction manual. This creates a total of 8 nuclei, all floating around inside one giant cell. Then, this fascinating reorganization happens, where new cell walls form around them. And the final result is the mature embryo sac. It's an incredibly complex and organized structure. You've got 7 cells, but 8 nuclei, all working together. It holds the all-important egg cell, a couple of helper cells, a big central cell, and a few others at the far end. It is now perfectly prepared, and it's waiting. So there we have it, our 2 final products. The tough, armored pollen grain, ready for an adventure, and the secure, perfectly prepared embryo sac, nested safely at home. 2 totally different journeys, but they share the exact same goal. And it all comes down to 2 opposite strategies. The male process is a numbers game. Make millions of pollen grains to beat the odds, hoping just one makes it. But the female process is all about conservation and protection. The pollen has to make a dangerous trip, right? Through wind, on the back of a bee. Most of it will be lost. The egg, though, it stays safe, so the plant invests everything into making one perfect, protected target. This table really sums it all up beautifully. Different locations, the exposed anther versus the protected ovule. A different result from that key cell division, 4 functional pollen versus just 1 functional megaspore. And 2 completely different final structures, each one perfectly engineered for its specific job. So what's the big picture? What does this all mean? Well, these 2 incredibly intricate processes happening side by side create the essential male and female blueprints for all new plant life. So when you boil it all down, here's what you really need to remember. Both processes use that special division, meiosis, to get cells with half the normal genetic code. The male microspores grow into what we call the male gametophyte. That's just the fancy name for the pollen grain. And that single female megaspore becomes the female gametophyte, or the embryo sac. Without both of these production lines running perfectly, sexual reproduction in flowering plants just wouldn't happen. It's as simple as that. The factory has officially done its job. The super resilient pollen grain is ready to be shipped out, and the embryo sac is waiting patiently in its secure nursery. The blueprints are complete. So the obvious next question is, how do they meet? And that, of course, is a whole other story.